Hey, DrippMan, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you today. It means a lot.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you having me here on everything.
Hell yeah. So, DrippMan with two P's, huh?
Yeah, two P's, drip man, two P's. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? The second P, I feel like it's for originality. When I had originally came up with the concept, for drip man and how I wanted to represent that, initially I'm seeing how everybody talks about they drip, like about what they wearing, and just all type of materialistic shit. And drip man, me, I always been deeper than that. And so I thought it'd be super fitting for me to do a play on that word, add a second P, and let them know that to be extra P, it just got to come from the soul. My drip truly bleeds from the soul. It's a different kind of drip. You know what I'm talking about? So when I say drip, man, and I'm talking about the sauce I got, hey, it's always in reference to that aura. Drip man ain't that nigga because he got $1 million chain. My fans know this is an Amazon chain. I spent $20 on it. You know what I'm talking about? My watches, you know what I'm saying? Walmart ass watches. You know what I'm talking about? $10 ass watches. But I make it look like a million bajillion just because that's how I'm coming. That's how I'm stepping. And so drip man, I had to put two P's in there. Two P's in there, just let them know this is not no regular shit. We go way harder than that.
Okay, I like that. That's how you coming. Some might say that extra P is for positivity. Why do you think haters are so negative towards you in the way they are, even though you're so positive most of the time?
A couple things come to mind. The universe requires balance, right? We know that as a fact. And so just with how powerfully positive I am, right? Because I believe that I'm my positive and my kindness is powerful enough to change the world. I feel like every day it inspires people as I am inspired by kind acts. And so I think because of that balance, I mean, there's going to be an overwhelming amount of negativity sometimes trying to associate itself with it, for a couple of reasons. Number one, because of that balance, but I think another thing too, it's like if I'm really, you know, if I really am who I'm claiming to be, you know what I mean? The universe uh, has every right to test me and challenge me and send waves and waves and waves of whether that's haters or a lot of the other um, circumstances that I've been through throughout my life that were just super brazy. Um, Always used as fuel, you know what I'm saying, for me personally. And I just look at everything like like it's just an honor. You know what I mean? So I can't really explain for them individually or personally, but that's a thought that comes. Those are a few thoughts that come to mind as far as how I interpret it. You know what I mean? To me, none of it's negative. I feel like it's all necessary. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, that's a really interesting way to answer that question because I feel like some people might have just said, hey, yo, when you popping, of course you're supposed to have haters.
That's a real.
And I guess that kind of speaks to how humble you are, which I think is super dope. What do you have to say about that?
Hey, I'm not against people popping their shit. I pop my shit all the time. You know what I'm saying? So, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. For me, Drip Man again, as I was talking about having two P's in my name and me alluding to the sauce being thicker, that's how I come at every single question in every situation. If you want to call that humble, that's cool. I definitely don't reject that word. That's dope.
Okay, yeah, I can dig that for sure. I'll be reading through your comments and there's some people that think you're cocky though, still. So what do you have to say about that, Mr. Dripman?
My confidence isn't in relation to other people. I'm so sure of the energy and the gifts that the universe endowed me with, and I work very hard to so that those gifts are working to the highest of their ability. I just feel like I gotta shout out to the universe. I gotta pop my shit. I gotta talk my shit and confidently represent what the universe has given me. I feel like it would be a shame not to. That would be just like an oak tree, knowing it could be 1,000 feet, but somehow it had a decision in this scenario I'm talking about. And the oak tree just decided not to be that tall because it was next to apple trees, and the apple trees weren't that tall. Like, how are you doing justice to the magnificence of the universe and what it created by shrinking yourself? You know what I mean? So of course you're gonna let the world know about your gifts, and you shouldn't shrink when the world tests your gifts. If that means you gotta yell louder about your gifts, then you gotta do that. And if you ain't gonna do it for you, then you definitely gotta do it on behalf of the universe. Because shout out to the universe for endowing you with those gifts.
Yeah, shout out to the universe. That's a whole different take on bragging that I guess I didn't think about. You know what I mean? So you always talk about being from a small city. Can you kind of touch on that and kind of what that experience kind of meant to you and how that molded you a little bit?
Yeah, great question. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Drip, Wisconsin, as I like to call it. It's my state now. But Green Bay is a smaller city, maybe 100,000 people in it. And they're only known for the Packers, if they're known at all. And DrippMan likes to represent for the small town kids. It's small town kids out here, whether you're from Green Bay or other cities. I also like to say they're non-name brand cities. For instance, like if you're from Chicago or New York or Atlanta or LA, that name recognition alone affords you some type of credibility, and it affords you as a kid, it affords you, I feel like, a little bit more possibilities, especially in the entertainment arena or rap industry. When you're from a small town, a lot of times it's just a pipe dream, if a dream at all. And it's so unrealistic that, you know what I mean, for small town people to think that they could become this big global star, at least without the assistance of a record deal. It feels so unrealistic that it stops a lot of kids in their dreams. And so DrippMan wants to represent for those kids and tell them, hey, never give up, keep grinding. You know what I mean? There is a place for you know what I mean, designer cities, small town city kids to be the greatest in the world. It's really up to you and how far you individually want to take it. So often the world wants to label us, and part of that label oftentimes is where you from. A lot of people say, hey, Drip, you from Green Bay. That's not gangster. That's not hood. They misunderstand. You either built like that or you not. You understand me? And so, you know, again, the nuance in what I'm saying is I want to remove what we think these words mean and us give power to the words. So after DrippMan, it don't matter if you're from a small town, you're going to be able to say that shit with your chest. Yeah, I'm from Green Bay. Or yeah, I'm from whatever city you from. And you're going to be able to keep that shit moving.
A powerful message, even for somebody like me. I'm from a small town too, and had to grind to make my dreams come true. So super duper duper dope. So now your career, tell us some of your aspirations and your dreams and your goals on where you want to take it from here. You know, with all the support, you guys have grown by thousands of fans on Instagram and YouTube. The growth is there, so what do you plan on doing next?
Because there's a few different goals, right? Because DrippMan is a streamer. I'm an entertainment artist. But first and foremost, we make music. So with music, you know, Billboard, for sure. Having our first Billboard entry. We just had a song called Amazon Chain that our fan base, our supporters are so excited about, you know, where it talks about my $20 Amazon chain, just the realest record you could ever hear, and it's done over a club beat. And it's so catchy. You know what I mean? And I just know that's going to catch on as we get a bigger marketing and promotional budget. And so, and I, you know, just a lot of exciting music that I think is going to be unique and original to what we're doing. So Billboard definitely with the music, and it'd be so dope to do that independently. In the momentum, I think that would definitely help us represent Drip Gang. You know what I mean? In the movement, what we're doing the right way. It seems like almost every single stream that we do, and I live stream like 3, 4, 5 times a day. You know, we're always hitting milestones, always hitting goals. You know what I mean? We're always validating all the work we're putting in, because a lot of our fans are going out and not only sharing our posts and commenting, and they're also tapping into every single live and commenting the whole time for our 4, 5, 6 hour lives. You know, they're also sending money, sending donations. And when they sign off, you know what I mean, they're going and telling their mom about it and their brother and their sister, and just so much excitement and so much hard work being put into it. And so hitting these milestones, I think, helps people continue to stay energetic about it. And so Billboard would be a big thing. And then as far as streaming, you know, the fact that we're getting over 1,000 new followers every day, and I expect that to increase, is cool. But I never want to quantify, you know what I mean, my spirit or my energy or manifestation into numbers. Because truthfully, you could have 1,000,000 followers who are hollow followers, and they might leave you the second that you mess up. Versus you might find 1 or 2 or 5 or 100 or 1,000 real followers who will stay with you at all times, right? And that could be more important.
I will say, you have a way of connecting with your fans that's unique. And a lot of it, for instance, like you had made a post where you sprinkled your mother's ashes on your granny's cemetery, and it was like a really deep moment. But some people said you did it just to make money. Like, how could you monetize a moment like that What do you have to say to people who have that question?
The reason why I wanted to do that on camera, truthfully, is because of how close me and my chat are. You got to understand, DrippMan comes from a place where I don't have a family, let alone a traditional structured family, where we're able to share in these moments. You know, and some families are real close knit, and they really embrace each other and make these moments meaningful, right? And come to these decisions together. And there's other families who maybe they're not as strong, but they're at least able to talk to each other in some aspect about it and acknowledge it, and at the very least come to an important decision like that together. I had to make the decision to sprinkle my mother's ashes over my grandmother's grave by myself, you know, after a lot of the things that I went through, because I'm not in touch with my family members anymore, because I don't have a traditional family structure where I have people to vent to and or be emotional with and bare my soul with. And it's been like that since I can remember, because my mother passed away when I was young, and the family really broke up then. And when I went to a foster home, I truthfully felt like I was treated more like, you know, just a piece of meat versus a human being. And so I've just gotten used to that. And so one awesome, amazing thing about our channel blowing up and me getting real, authentic followers and making the connections we have is I finally have people that I feel like accept me for who I am, and I'm growing and I'm evolving emotionally just because of this shit. And so it's so meaningful that I finally have people, a group of people that I can share deep emotional moments with. And it makes it that much more meaningful when you look at the comment section and people are sharing their stories too and saying, hey, I did this too. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what I mean? Rest in peace to your mother. You know, another thing, because I don't have that family, and I don't have people that I've known ever since I was little. I don't have anybody to really remember my mother with, and I also don't have anybody to celebrate my mother with. And I definitely feel like my mother was one of the greatest, if not, you know, in my opinion, and we probably all feel this way about our moms, but my mom was the greatest woman to ever live to me. And so it feels awesome to have people to celebrate her with. So it was actually really deep and emotional to me, that I was able to celebrate that moment with a group of people. You know, and again, in the viewer situation, if you're watching, maybe you have a family to share that with. And DrippMan is happy to say that I finally have a family to share that with too. So yeah, get used to it. I'm gonna be posting my entire life, and it's not for content. It's like I said, it's let's not deny it. It is great content, but it's meaningful content, and I think we should focus on the meaningful part.
Hey, okay. I see you, big dog. Dope. All right, so yeah, from here, you always talk about your mother, how meaningful it was to be raised by a single mother. Don't really talk about your father a whole lot. You mind to touch on that a little bit here? Give us a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so I mean, my biological father, I don't really have a whole lot of information on him. What I will say about that experience, though, you know, which I actually cover a little bit more in depth on my From the Drips of Hell podcast on my YouTube channel. Um, but what I do have to say about that situation is I'm very happy that everything turned out the way it did. Um, you know, when I was younger, you know, I met him when I was 9 years old. Probably talked to him for maybe a couple months, and then he left my life again. I saw him again, you know, when I was 12 at court. He showed up. The judge summoned them because my mother, basically, I was getting taken out of my mother's care, and they asked, you know, my biological father if he wanted me, and he said to the judge, "Hey, that's not my son. You know, do whatever you need to do with him." That was within earshot. I could hear him even, you know. So very heartbreaking to get taken out of your mother's care. But you know, considering you know those words that he said, also on top of that, just unbelievable trauma and pain. Something that I probably deal with to this day. You see me over here rubbing my knee and stuff. Um, so traumatic. You know what I mean? To further the story, you know, recently he tried to get in touch with me. And he tried to tell me, you know, hey, it's time for us to talk about some of those things in the past. I really think it's important that you hear my explanation and know what happened. And I declined that conversation with him, um, just out of respect to my mother. You know what I mean? This is a conversation that you probably should have had with her when she was alive. You know, and he had plenty of time. I mean, my mom didn't pass away till I was 14. And so I don't want to give him the closure now. You know, I didn't know what his desires or his intentions were. I don't know if it's coincidental that we're blowing up now and he just finally reaches out to me or whatever. But anyway, putting all that aside, what I do want to say about that, considering the background I just gave you, is I'm very thankful. You know, his name's Craig. Craig, if you're watching this, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the non-role that you played in my life, because things have turned out just perfect. You know, and I'm able to have the levity that I need um, to be able to talk about my story and be able to provide inspiration for maybe others who maybe feel broken or feel a certain way about being fatherless. We are not less. We are more. There's nothing wrong with us. We are actually more loved by the universe. The universe actually knows that we are the strongest of the strong. And so that's the final step that I got to. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of in between. But if you relate with it at all, heart sauce to you. Um, Glad things turned out the way that it did.
One thing I'll say is real inspirational to hear how you turn negative into positive over the course of your life. But a few years back, you had went to Oblak, went viral for that, and it was controversial for a lot of reasons. So, can you kind of talk about that situation, kind of the meaning behind that, and all of that?
There's a dude, rest in peace, Zach TV1, who a lot of people know as a famous streamer who was from Chicago, based out of Chicago, and had a hand in a lot of Chicago artists blowing up, like Chief Keef. He's, you know, and Zach TV is famous for going to the hood and interviewing people. And so a part of Zach TV's story is he used to live in Green Bay, like for some years. You know what I mean? And so during the years he lived in Green Bay, I had got close to him. He was like, I would describe him as a mentor, like he was to a lot of it was to a lot of little niggas. You know what I mean? In Green Bay, he was actually, you know what I mean, somebody older and black that we could look up to. And so I loved him. And so boom, fast forward, Zach TV winds up getting smoked out in Chicago on Printers Row one night, and y'all can look up the story behind it. But it's unfortunate and it's heartbreaking. I'm looking at situations like 6ix9ine going to the rack, or some of these other dudes, NBA YoungBoy, and nothing happening to them. But you guys take the life of Zach TV, who again was all about Chicago and all about peace and spreading love, and it just touched my heartstrings. And I don't condone them hurting people. I'm not saying you, because you hurt Zach, you should have hurt those other people. I'm saying you're obviously capable of choosing not to hurt people. So why did you hurt Zach? You know what I mean? That's not gangster to me. You know what I mean? It's actually heartbreaking. So all of that combined into itself is I wanted to go to Chicago. I wanted to go to the hardest block, and I wanted to dress like how I do, and I wanted to start a conversation of like, what is gangster and what the fuck is going on here, basically. Even in my Drip Rack song, which is available on all streaming platforms, one of the bars I said, really nigga, fuck this rap beef. How you take a real nigga but don't touch the Kashi? Like even in my songs, I was saying I was wanting to start the bigger conversation of like, we gotta figure this shit out. It's not cool. Cool. So it was blowing my career up to a different level. Now, one thing DrippMan didn't think about prior to blowing up from this Oblak shit was branding and how am I gonna make money. I did make a few thousand from doing podcast interviews because it was hot. Niggas like, yo, Drip, let's get an interview. So I'm getting paid for that. However, the video didn't go viral on my channel, on my YouTube channel, or none of that. It did go viral on my Facebook, but Facebook pays like shit. My shit was going viral on Mac Mulla's shit. He did like 300,000. X-Man Rico did like 500,000 or something like that. I can't remember what X-Man Rico's was, but I know it's the biggest post on his page. Shaky Funny Ass did like 1 million. And you look at World Star, like they did over 1 million. And so they're all getting paid from this shit, and I wasn't. It taught me a valuable lesson that, hey, we got to make sure we build up the DrippMan Drip Gang brand, and we got to, you know, get it to the point where we're doing those numbers off our platform. It's important, obviously, for the money and the resources so that you can make the next move.
Yeah, that's definitely $1 million worth of game right there. Something that a lot of artists don't necessarily highlight. The branding. Seems like you really figured that out. And part of your identity, your brand is the fake tattoos, the temporary tattoos.
Yeah, that's a part of my sauce, my originality, my flavor. You know what I mean? And a lot of my hardcore fans, they love it. They absolutely love that shit. They find that to be unique. So for me, I'm not putting the tattoos on to get in the character. You know what I mean? Like this ain't no goddamn suburb nigga and he dressing up for a character. This is me being unique to my gangster. I've always loved tattoos. I've always loved face tattoos. But I always wanted to do it in my own way. And so originally when I got the face tattoos, I just started putting them on my face, just trying to figure out, you know, a good pattern because I knew I was gonna go brazy with them. So I'm trying to figure out a pattern on how I want to do it. But then putting fake tattoos, I'm like, nah, actually, this shit is saucy because every day you can switch it up and look different every day. And I think that's part of the allure of people having permanent tattoos is they, you know what I mean? When people first see the tattoo, they, ooh. But then, you know what I mean? After they know you have the tattoo, it's still dope, but it's kind of like you lose that edge of it. So I enjoy people being like, yo, what you got on your face every day? You know, so I enjoy that aspect of it. And I also enjoy, honestly, that it's an authentic expression that I don't see other people doing, other rappers doing, especially no other beings that are as saucy as Drip. Drip is all about, hey, I already know I'm the sauciest nigga in the room. And I don't say it to brag. I say that to say the next part. If the sauciest nigga in the room can still be the sauciest nigga wearing fake tattoos and painting his nails and rocking purses if you feel like it, then what's your excuse for not still being yourself and not being open and honest about yourself and just coming how you come? So that's what DrippMan, Drip Gang's all about.
Yeah, that's, as you would say, saucy. All right, man. Appreciate the interview. Why don't you tell them about your merchandise if you got it, and where else they can follow you at?
Absolutely. Shout out to DrippMan, Drip Gang. Y'all know what's going on. I also appreciate you going to drippman.com, DRIPPMAN.com. That's where you can get your Drip Gang merchandise. We got t-shirts, sweatshirts, outfits, shoes, Crocs, all that shit. And it gets delivered straight to your door. We feel like we are the new Amazon type shit. And then I am releasing a album that I don't even have a title for yet, but it's coming out within the next month. So subscribe to the page, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I live stream a few times a day, and we're doing over 250,000 views every single stream. And one cool thing about being on my streams is I love to preview my music on there. So you'll hear a lot of the music first. But I'm thinking about 20 songs on that next album and mixtape. And I cannot wait to unveil the details. One of the songs on that mixtape is named after my guy, Unknown XZ4. Big shout out to Unknown XZ4. Donated thousands of dollars to the movement already. A lot of sauce, a lot of energy. And so I named a song after them that's going to be on the album. And the album will be available on all streaming platforms as well. So yeah, big things this summer. Join the gang. DrippMan. Ah.